Use the code CHICKEN in the shop.
Hey guys, the chicken is here. We are back today with another Boom Beach video. In today's video, guys, very excited. We have the man himself from Supercell, Mr. Nuno Susu, on the line here. I just butchered your name.
Susu.
But yeah, how you doing? Thank you so much for coming on.
Doing great. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, to answer your questions.
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of stuff kind of come out lately, so I felt like this would be a great time to have you on and, kind of talk about stuff. We'll talk about some general questions too. But yeah, let's just go ahead and dive right into it. So right off the bat, first question. How do you feel about the current state of the game? Well, actually, before I get into that, maybe let's backpedal for a second. Why don't we explain kind of who you are to someone that doesn't know what you do? Maybe just start off by telling us what you do at Supercell.
Okay, so my role is basically to be the bridge between you community members and the game team, the devs, basically. I share all your feedback and some of your suggestions to the game team, and then they'll decide if they implement it or not. And whatever decisions they make, like for an update, I try to work on that through either campaigns or through some more simpler or basic social images, and try to explain that through that from the dev side.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely good to know, and like probably the most common thing that you hear is like this is broken. Like why can't they fix it immediately? Like for example, was it this season or last season? I forget where we had Sergeant Brick like right away
Yeah.
in Warships, and like it just made that like the battle orders bug that crashes the game so like front stage because everyone was using her. So like, how do you deal with those kind of things? Because it's like, I'll let you explain it, but it's obviously out of your hands. Like, what the bug is, and you're explaining it to the team. Like, how come stuff like that gets kind of delayed or whatever?
No, this is the tricky part of my job, and for the devs as well. I mean, they obviously don't plan on having bugs like this in game, obviously. And whenever we come across something like that, such a game-breaking bug or issue, glitch, situation, whatever, it's always tricky because we are working with a game which is nearly 10 years old, and the code is old, So it's not as easy to simply just let's just find the root. What is it causing this situation and just fix it. It's not as simple as that. I mean, it's easier to have like something to show the devs, like for example a video of that occurring, like the exact the timestamps of the video, like okay, this is when it happened, on which troop, which hero, etc. And that's really helpful, but again, we are working with a really old game. And sometimes it's not as easy as that. We can sometimes try to change the code and hope it fixes it, but
Right.
it's not always possible, unfortunately. But yeah, that's pretty much how I deal with it. I try to gather as much information as possible from the community, and I try to reproduce it myself. I tried, it didn't happen. Then I tried days later, and it started happening for some reason. So it's not like 100% like this is how it should happen.
Yeah, for sure. I noticed that myself too. But so basically, like for someone like myself, I don't understand game coding or anything like that at all. But
Yeah, me
basically,
neither.
like yeah, like the kind of the age of it makes some stuff like impossible or like a massive job to fix, and it's just the team doesn't have that kind of time. Is that kind of how it works?
I mean, there is time, but sometimes, I mean, there is time. Obviously, it's just trying to find where that time fits best. We need to find our priorities. Our team, as I said before, our team has their own priorities when it comes to either game development or even more bureaucratic decisions that they need to make. that we don't share. We cannot share those.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we always try to find time for those type of situations because we don't get anything from you guys having crashes. I'm a player myself, and I don't like having crashes. So what I mean, why shouldn't we fix it? But again, it's not as simple as that, you know.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot that goes into it. Okay, so you've been the CM for Boom Beach for how long now? 2 years, 3 years?
3 years, yeah, 3 years in September, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow. So, in your opinion, since you've been the CM, like, how do you feel about the state of the game versus like when you came in, when you started? Like, what were your initial impressions of it, and then like where the game is at now? Like, how do you feel about it?
I mean, obviously, as a player, I wish there were things in the game that aren't. But as a CM, you have to be realistic and understand that there are limits on what we can achieve, given our circumstances, and that's where I want to touch. Because when I joined the team, the Boom Beach started not getting any more major updates. So, you know, it's a difficult situation, but it's still a challenge, a good one. And I feel like lately it's been better than it was when I joined. The goal is always the same: is to do things for the players and give players a game that they will play for many years. And Boom Beach has achieved that, and we can always do better. That's obvious. And you know, Boom Beach is close to hitting the 10-year mark, and there are still a lot of things that the team wishes to do. So I would say that I feel positive, and I like the route it's taking. Yeah.
Cool, cool. Yeah, one thing I did want to ask you about that. I don't know if you can actually answer this or not, but like, can we say how many people are still playing the game like daily? Like, is that public info or no?
It's not public info. It's not something that we passively look into it. We know that there are millions of players that play every week. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to, see about that because yeah, I find in any game, the longer it goes on, there's always like, oh, it's dying and blah, 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 and whatever. But, from my point of view, I think the game is, it's a ton of fun, obviously. And there's a lot of good things about it. And we do have a really strong community. And I think there's no reason to not see it, do well for years to come and the way things are going now.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Definitely. I remember when we had that special offer where people were saying that the game was closing because it was the ultimate offer, and that was
Yeah.
so funny. I was like, "What? Did
Yeah.
you really? Did I announce something wrongfully?"
Yeah. It's the clearance
But then
sale. Everything's closing.
yeah, I shared that with the team, and they were like, "Really? The community really thought about it like that way?
Yeah.
We had no idea. We need to like rethink when we announce stuff like this in game because that was clearly not our intent. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we just wanted to do something fun with an offer, and it was really nice, and players got it wrongfully, but yeah, it was still a fun experience nonetheless.
Yeah, just got to be careful with those. Okay, so let's jump into the next one. I'm curious to know, and I'm sure a lot of people out there are too. How are warship tech trees designed? What goes into that? Like, what goes into making of a season?
Well, I'm not directly involved in making tech trees or any base layouts, deck layouts rather. But I know that our game producer makes the tech trees, and then there's this whole balancing team that verifies if the tech tree and tech layouts are good enough to go live. Of course, that is all very easy to explain, but there's a big process on making a tech tree, like testing, balancing, what's going to look like for IT and non-IT players. There's obviously certain rules that you need to follow when you make a tech tree, like the amount of mines that you can have in a base in the base, yeah, for a season, what prototype defenses go and their respective levels, etc.
How
So
many ever sparks are going to be within one node?
yeah, I mean, you also have to consider that we're over 40 seasons now, and making something different every single season is not that easy.
Oh, for sure. No, it's super
And
complex. It's not an easy thing
it's
at all. Like
it's
I've looked at it
it,
before, and sometimes I look at the trees and I think they're going to be awesome, and then they come out and people start playing, and they end up something was just a miss or in the wrong spot. Like it's a tough thing to see beforehand, but I think it's still interesting to know like
yeah.
how they're designed from the start.
Yeah, there's obviously so much you can do. I mean, given the amount of resources that you have, but nonetheless, I truly believe that the team is doing a good job in keeping that pace and being able to bring something new every season.
Yeah. Any hints for season 40?
You'll have to wait for the sneak peeks.
Um, and what about season 50? That's going to be a big one, right? Do we have any plans to do something? I thought
I
maybe what would be cool is if we went back to season 1 for season 50 or something like that.
I do have plans, yes, and I've shared those already, and the team was really intrigued.
Oh,
They really they wanted to do something special for season 50, that's for sure, but I can't share any details. That's
cool.
still like rough planning. It's a complete draft, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got almost a year until then, so season 50,
Mhm.
guys, stay tuned. Um, so we kind of already talked on this, but what would you say is the most difficult part and also the most enjoyable part of your job as the CM?
Most difficult, I would say, is to keep the community's expectations in place
Mm-hmm.
because of no more major updates, but at the same time, uh, interested and as invested as before. There are, I mean, there are certainly bad days at every job in the world, but I'd say
Mm-hmm.
that they aren't very difficult, but rather challenging. And this is one of those challenges, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Um, maybe touch on that for a sec. What do you mean by no more major updates for people that are hearing that for the first time and freaking out?
So no more major updates is something that it's not in the game's code. For example, we don't plan on adding a task force versus task force, for
Right.
example.
But
Not
that
right
doesn't
now.
mean that there's not new content updates and updates in general
Exactly.
coming, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We before we announced that we were going to do more HQs up until 25.
Mm-hmm.
Um and we announced this at HQ 22 or 23, I don't remember. So there's still new content coming, like the mech came to the main base.
Yeah.
So, there's still stuff that we can work with, but nothing super game changing or that completely changes the meta for any type of leaderboard, either be task forces or warships, global leaderboard,
Yeah,
nothing
and I
like that.
guess that kind of to go back to your last point, that's kind of what you were talking about is managing expectations for players. It's one of those things. It's like okay, you want to keep their expectations in check, but at the same time you don't want to come out and say there's no major updates. Like nobody wants to hear that. But at the same time, everyone has asked for task force versus task force, or like I don't know, a third warships island or something like that. So you want to be like basically like, look, we can't do the huge stuff, but
Mhm.
there's still stuff coming at the same time. Like I see what you mean. That's a tricky thing to
Yeah,
explain.
it's definitely not easy to manage those expectations because we obviously want to keep our players interested and
Yeah.
invested, and telling directly to them like, okay, but you just gotta be aware there's no more major updates. I mean, what does that mean to them?
Hmm.
Because some smaller updates might mean it's something big for them. Like adding a new troop, for example, might be big for them. And I mean, yeah, there's the expectation part. I mean, it
Hmm.
always depends on the player's perspective as well. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I guess we kind of touched on this too. But will we see any changes in the future coming to warships? Like the way things are now, kind of, the tech trees are usually somewhat similar and just spaced out differently. Um, do you think there'll be any, significant changes to tech trees or warships in the future?
I mean, I can't say much. I can't share much. You'll have to wait and see. But the idea is to have some new stuff coming for warships as well as for the main island. And again, I'm not saying like completely new features. It's just some new additions that might change the meta for warships.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that. So, Mr. Nunu, we've the reason you're here. We've had a lot of little teasers coming out in the last few, just in the recent week. We saw the what everyone's speculating on to be a new troop in the Boom Beach animation that was posted on YouTube. We saw some sort of proto troop blueprint thing come out the other day, and we also saw that science fair poster I think was tweeted out too. Are these another Area 51 or Slushy update, or do we got something here?
Well, this that's funny. I mean, these teasers are definitely hinting for something new. This is not just a regular storytelling campaign like we did before, like you mentioned, the Slushy Maker. I mean, that's how much I can share right now. There's more to come in the upcoming weeks. But I honestly feel like you might like this one. I'm excited for it at least.
Okay. So safe to say, potentially an update is coming.
Yeah, we can say that. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's very exciting, and guys, I want you to let us know down below in the comments what how you feel about some of these questions. You guys can sound off too. Appreciate your feedback, and of course, what you think all these teasers, what's actually going to come out in this potential new update. So yeah, that's all I got. Nunu, thank you so much for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome anytime. So I think we'll wrap it up right there, guys. That's it. That's all. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Chicken out.
Bye bye.